So welcome everyone to WIC Communications Internship Program Info Session. I am Liao Zhao, the Head of Outreach at Communication Leadership Program. So I want to welcome everyone. I know that we are not only having ComLead students, but also incoming students from cohort 21 and also undergraduate students. So for the new coming students, please say hi in the chat box and let us know where you are right now and what program you're in, which track you're in. So now I think I would turn it over to Matt Ashworth. He is the General Manager and Senior Vice President, Seattle at WIC Communications. So Matt, please.
Thanks, Liao. Hello, everyone. I want to start just by thanking everyone for taking time to spend with us today. I know that lives are really busy and complex right now with everything going on in the world. So I really, really appreciate you taking time to join us today and hear a little bit more about the company and specifically our internship program. We have a nice history of partnering with the University of Washington in particular. We've had we have lots of Huskies that are among our ranks at the Seattle, we call it the Seattle office, but it's actually in Bellevue. We've got about 275 people, so lots of Huskies. We've also had a number of ComLead program graduates that have worked or are working with us now. And so you've made a good choice for your communication education. The company, WIC Communications, if you're not familiar, is quite special. I've worked in communications for 25 years now. I came over to WIC about 4 years ago. It's one of the largest independent communication agency in the world. And the reason that's important, that independence piece, is a lot of what brought me to WIC and what I think makes our culture so special. In the agency world, there are all sorts of amazing agencies that do amazing work. A lot of those are owned by big holding companies. And one of the things I learned about WIC by living and working in this market before coming over here was that independent spirit meant that we could really put the focus on our people and purpose. And that really is what drew me to WIC Communications. And over the last couple of years, as we've been dealing with the pandemic, it's been a steady, recurring drumbeat message of the number one thing is to take care of our people. And if we take care of our people and each other, that's going to have us be healthy and successful in order to take care of our clients. And when we serve our clients well, our business will be successful. And of all the places I've worked, that ability to really put people first and really pick projects and clients and stories we want to tell that are not just trying to sell things, but demonstrate the impact that technology and business, the positive impact that can have on the world, is really the sweet spot for WIC Communications. So I won't talk too long about the agency because I want to make sure that you get a chance to hear from some folks who just recently came through our internship program. And so I think up next, Maddy's going to tell you just a few details about how the program works. And then I'm going to ask Phaedra, Amalia, and Brooklyn some questions about their experience in the internship program so you can get a sense for what their experience was like.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So yeah, as Matt said, my name is Maddy. I help run the internship program at WIC. So I have the absolute best job ever because the internship program is the best. It's really fun. We have a lot of fun together and build a lot of community. And it's also the thing that I think we're the most proud of at the agency. I'm biased about this, but the interns really have an amazing experience learning about the agency and our secret sauce and what is communications and how do you do public relations and all of the things that Matt was talking about in terms of delighting clients and doing good work. Like, what does that mean? How do you do it? And so you kind of plug in and really jump in. And so it's unlike a lot of other internships. So of course it's great to lead such an awesome program. So I got very lucky inheriting it. But yeah, as Matt mentioned, the way that we'll structure our time today, I'm going to give you a quick overview and a little bit more detail about the program. And then we'll ask our recent interns some questions, and then we'll leave some time at the end for you to ask us any questions that you have about the agency or what the internship program is like. And then at the very end, after that, we'll share some tips and tricks from our talent acquisition and HR team about what they look for in applications and stuff that you can be doing to really get ahead now. So okay, so without further ado, a little overview about the internship program. So I'll just start with a little bit of the logistics that the internship program is 40 hours a week. It is paid, and you have to have completed undergraduate. So if you're on this meeting and you haven't yet completed your undergrad, let's stay in touch on, like, we has excellent social media channels, and I'll give an email address, and we'd love to stay in touch until you do graduate. But so you have to have graduated undergraduate, and you have to be able to work the 40 hours a week. And a little bit about the actual program. So it's really a crash course in communications and working at an agency. So there's a lot of different facilitated training sessions, like we'll teach you how to give and receive feedback, and also what is media relations. You'll have a whole training on that, things like that. Lots of trainings and mentorship and a lot of on-the-go learning. So you're not sitting back as you would in school and listening and then writing about it or presenting something. It's like, okay, Isabel, let's go. And like, you're just looped in and you hit the ground running. And yes, we focus a lot on communications and coaching into it, and learning different strategies and storytelling, and just we try and make it as well-rounded as we can. And we have 3 different programs that run a year. So there's the spring program, which is February to May. There's the summer program, which is June to August, which is over in about 1 week. I can't believe it. And the fall program, which is October through December. So the fall program, the applications are actually up right now too. And I will follow up in the chat with a link to that. And then we have offices all over the country, all over the world, actually. But some of our main offices, we have the Seattle one, we have a San Francisco, a New York, a Portland, and Austin, a Boston office. And then we also have various offices in Australia and India and China and Singapore and Germany. And so we have offices that we partner with all over the world, which is really cool. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back over to you, Matt, to ask some questions to our panelists.
First, I'm going to unmute. And before I start asking our wonderful panelists some questions, I just want to echo what Maddy said about this internship program. I have worked 5 places during my career. All 5 of them, we had internship programs. This one is by far the best. And that's because we're not trying to bulk up on extra resources. We are literally trying to bring on the best talent, give them a really meaningful experience to start their PR career, in hopes that at the end of that internship, they're a fit for us and we're a fit for them. And so I was just on a call, I was just thinking about this, I was just on a call before this for one of my accounts. I've been at WE for just about 4.5 years, and I was learning from the key media strategist on this account about an issue that we're trying to manage and finish by end of day. He was in the intern class the first time I came there. So it really is a pipeline for us to bring on new talent to the agency. So, and Maddy's done a great job in really taking the program to the next level. But let's go ahead and dive in and meet and hear a little bit more about our panelists. And I am going to pull up my notes here. The first thing, team, and let's start with you, Amalia. I would love for each of you to introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, if you're a current or past intern, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. I'm Amalia Justiniano. I was in the 2019, oh my goodness, wow, 2019 fall internship, and my pronouns are she, hers. Let's see here, what else is on here, and a little bit about myself. So I'm currently on the work and play security compliance and identity team here at We, which is pretty much cybersecurity comms for Microsoft. So that's a little bit about me. Been at the agency for almost 2 years now, and I actually just recently applied to this program. So you might be seeing me hanging out with you guys soon.
So cool. Phaedra.
Hi everyone, I'm Phaedra. I use she, her pronouns, and I work for the news planning team, which basically just means I work very closely with members of the media. A little bit about me. I was an intern in the last spring session. So February 2021, I started, and then I got hired on end of April, May of 2021. So I've been out of that program for only a couple of months. I still definitely remember a lot about it. It was a great experience. More fun facts about me. I really like hiking. I like going outdoors. And I really love working here. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Phaedra. How about you, Brooklyn?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Brooklyn. I use she, her pronouns, and I work out of the Seattle office / Bellevue, but obviously I'm remote right now. I also interned in the spring of 2021, so Phaedra and I were in the same cohort. And a few things about me is I went to Gonzaga in Spokane, so go Bulldogs and go Dogs. And I moved to Seattle just before starting the internship program. So yeah, just still figuring out Seattle and having a lot of fun. Only being kind of like Phaedra said, we're 3 months about out of the internship program, and there's still a lot to learn, a lot to take seriously, but it's all so fun. So excited to chat about it.
All right, this next one's going to be interesting because I want each of you to kind of describe what a typical day looks like. And I will tell our audience that with 275 people at the office in a full broad range of different account types, we serve consumer accounts, consumer brands, tech accounts, healthcare. We do traditional PR and media relations. We also have a really strong creative and digital marketing team. The breadth of what people do is in their internship is often very different. So let's reverse the order. And Brooklyn, why don't you tell us what a typical day looks like for you?
Yeah. During the internship, my clients were St. Michel Wine Estates and Intel, which is one of the leading semiconductor manufacturers. For those of you who don't know what Intel does, but so a typical day was always so different. In the morning, I'd be reading wine content and learning about the ways that consumers are changing their shopping habits and their drinking and eating habits and the ways they're practicing mindfulness. So it was really fun because I'm in the consumer sector and was paying a lot of attention to just how people are behaving in their just as consumers. And then at other parts of the day, I was reading about semiconductor shortage and paying attention to, so with Intel, I'm on their global impact team, which means we focus on Intel's diversity and inclusion and their sustainability work. And so a lot of the day too, I spent time paying attention to what other companies, corporations in either the tech industry or just across the board, what they're doing to minimize their environmental impact and what they're doing to promote diversity and inclusion and improve company culture. So every day I touched and paid attention to a broad range of topics, but it was so fun. And there's just so much to learn about. I think every day I think my job was my job personally, kind of my goal every day was to just dig myself deeper into the media landscape every day. So that meant just reading the news, finding out reporters who are paying attention to these topics and what's relevant to these reporters who are paying attention to whatever topics. And yeah, and then I'd also do a lot of like coverage scanning and flagging for clients. So paying attention to where Intel or where St. Michel Wine Estates are showing up in the media, sharing with clients every day, where we're seeing it and what that means for clients and how they came, or like how key messages were pulled through and everything. So, but kind of like Matthew said, every day is different and everyone's accounts and account work is different. But it was always, I mean, every day is fun and you learn something new. So that's kind of what my day-to-day across the board looked like.
I guess we should say that you had the wine and chips beat, right?
Exactly. Perfect for a charcuterie board.
There you go. Yeah, and I think Brooklyn's experience is sort of reflective of, out of the Seattle office, we service accounts all across the globe. So, Intel, not Seattle based, but we've got people in various offices that work on it based on their specialty or expertise. We also have a nice portfolio of Seattle accounts that we service right in our backyard. St. Michel Wine Estates is one of those. We just did a really fun IPO, initial public offering listing with rover.com, where we had puppies on the deck at on the podium at NASDAQ when they sold their first share. We work with F5 Networks, which is a B2B tech company. And then of course, a little player called Microsoft. Let's go now to Amalia. What's your typical day look like?
Yeah, so my typical day working on cybersecurity comms is definitely never boring. There's always something to do. I specifically work in we try not to silo things as often because it's just such a huge ecosystem, but my main focus is on threat intelligence. So that's like the ransomware attacks. If you heard about SolarWinds that happened earlier last year, or the Colonial Pipeline, that's the type of stuff that I am touching with my client. So with that crisis comms, we're working with so many different teams at the agency. So that would be like reactive issues management. And those two are really the folks who are making sure that branding, messaging is really filtered out with us and our clients. And then we also work with a team called SELA, and they kind of work on the more government legislative type things that come with cybersecurity comms. And kind of what Brooklyn was saying, really keeping a pulse on the media landscape, especially for interns and just junior staffers in general. Our clients and our team rely on us heavily to keep a pulse on what is going on in the media landscape, because they're obviously doing a lot of big things with project management and client management all up. So it's really on us. Well, not totally on us. Of course, they're keeping a pulse on it themselves, but we're really keeping a nose to the ground on what's going on with that. But I also get to help with client management, brainstorming sessions, all of that kind of stuff for what upcoming campaigns and what conferences we're going to be a part of or launching. And so I would say that my typical day-to-day, start to finish, as we all would say, it changes literally like hour by hour sometimes, depending on what's going on in the news. But I would say that it's usually meeting up with my team to figure out what our client prios are for that week. And also, like, I have a different manager than what we call a DLM, or dotted line manager. So there's a manager that I talk to about my day-to-day things on my team. And then I have a separate manager who kind of just helps me with my overall career goals and helps me navigate through the agency. And that for me has been really, really great. I also work with my mentee and also my mentor on what else can I be doing to just outsource what we has to offer in terms of progressing my career growth, and also my mentees like career growth. So it's a nice little cycle.
It's awesome. I love that you have a mentee, Amalia. That's so great. And yeah, if you want your day to be exciting and different and not quite know what issue you're going to work on, go into crisis comms or issues management for sure. Phaedra.
Yeah, a typical day for me is definitely very different from Lynn and Amalia. I think all of ours are pretty different. I work, like I said, on the news planning team for Microsoft, very closely with members of the media. So I started as an intern on that team and I am still on that team now. A typical day starts with checking our inbox where we basically collect all inquiries from media throughout the day. We clean it out in the morning and that takes a good chunk of time just to go through everything that came in through the day before. And we route those inquiries to the correct team. So if we have something that's related to cybersecurity, we send it to Amalia's team and make sure that that reporter gets their question answered. We send it to many of the teams in Microsoft. There's so many different areas within the Microsoft account. So it's a very complicated understanding of how that account works. I also work on some other internal processes that take a lot of planning and is a lot of emails back and forth, managing news moments, making sure that things are going out on a timely manner. So I do quite a bit of emailing, but I do also help out another team and I write a report every week related to employee signals and diversity and inclusion. So I write a lot about things going on at Amazon. I write a lot about the Amazon union protests that have been going on. That was a really big cycle for us. So I get a really good view of what employees are wanting, especially with the pandemic. A really huge focus right now has just been how employees really want flexible work options. That's really important to people. So it gives me a really good view into what employees at other tech companies are thinking, what employees at Microsoft are thinking. And I really enjoy being able to do some narrative writing for that team as well. I definitely do some coverage scanning when I have free time, but my workload depends on the news cycle. So sometimes we'll have a big reactive news cycle happen and we're going to have like 30 emails coming in and we have to jump in and route those. So it's definitely very fast paced, but it's never boring, never dull. I really enjoy the work that I do.
I think we want to make sure to give lots of time for y'all to ask questions as well. So maybe let's do 2 more panelists and then move along. And I want to hear you describe what is the culture like at WE, because culture is such an important part of deciding where you want to spend 40 plus hours a week. And let's start with you, Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think the company culture at WE was something that surprised me the most when starting, actually just from even interviewing for the internship all the way through to every day now. When I graduated from college and was looking for work, kind of like Matt said, something that was really important to me was finding a community or a company that cared about its employees and cared about friendships and valued like your social network just as much as the work that you deliver to clients. And so, yeah, even just throughout the interview process, the internship, with like getting to know other interns and having one-on-ones with people outside of the internship cohort and getting to meet people outside of my teams and outside of my sector, realizing that everybody wanted to be having conversations with me and everyone wanted to, like, everybody at the agency is just so interested in meeting each other and learning about each other beyond our work. I think it's definitely a company where I feel comfortable bringing myself as a person before I bring myself as an employee to every day. And that's something that is really special. And I think just naturally, that also makes me feel just very supported in work. If there's something personal happening at home, or if I have to like take a break for a day or step away, my teams are so supportive. And they're also so supportive when things are going really well. It's a great place for like words of affirmation and just like greater support from the agency or from the sector beyond your immediate team. So I think company culture is something that I definitely value and appreciate out of my experience so far. And I think you see that in all of the relationships, or I see that in all of the relationships that I have at work, whether it's how I'm managed, how I work with my teams, and then how people from outside of my teams or the internship cohort tend to like just still pay attention and still want to get to know you and learn about you and vice versa.
That's so great to hear. I'm glad you're having that experience, Brooklyn. Phaedra, can you tell us, we're gonna switch questions and get down to brass tacks here. What kind of support do you get in the internship program here? What can our audience expect as far as support is concerned?
I think that's a great question. I felt a lot of support starting as an intern. I think the biggest form of support was definitely just understanding that when you're thrown into a new environment, you're not going to know everything. Even graduating with a degree in PR, when you actually transition into an agency, it's still a very different world. And everyone is so understanding and supportive of that. They want you to do your best. They want you to succeed. It's not about measuring how you're doing things. They're not, testing you. They're not trying to figure out if they can ask you trick questions. They really want to see you succeed. And the transparency and the authenticity was something I really valued being an intern. Doing other internships before graduating, there was always a weird buffer period where I was a little uncomfortable and I didn't feel like I could be super outgoing. It was, I was shy and it was always a little bit weird, but there was no adjustment period at WE. Starting as an intern, they make you feel like a family right away. You get to know people, you get to talk to a lot of people, and they really just work with you at your level of understanding. And it's a really great way to get geared up. You learn so much, but it was never overwhelming. So I would say the understanding is definitely a really great piece.
Fantastic. And let's close out with you, Amalia. And it was interesting how those two questions kind of overlap with each other. I think it's because of our culture that hopefully the interns all feel supported and like we want you to succeed, because we absolutely do. Amalia, either one, tell us about your experience with the culture and or about the support you've gotten as an intern.
Sure. I mean, one, I echo everything that Phaedra and Brooklyn highlighted. I think the biggest thing for me definitely has been culture. And Matt, I know that you and I have definitely had those conversations before, which kind of is a testament to what WE is all about, is the fact that I can have conversations with Melissa, our CEO, or Matt, our GM, or our head of DEI, and just toss some time on their calendar, and they're more than willing to talk to me and listen to my ideas, has been something that I never thought that I would get as somebody who recently graduated only a couple of years ago, or even while I was an intern. This agency has given me a lot of space to grow in different ways, whether that's pursuing different passions like DEI, or wanting to try something on our DXT team, which is more along the lines of marketing and creative, and poking my head into places, seeing what I want, because we're all still really early in our career and we're all still trying to figure that out. And that's something that they definitely encourage us to advocate for yourself and find people to also advocate for you. And I also have met some of my best friends at this agency. There always is that we make sure to make good boundaries, of course, in terms of making up lines of this is friend time versus this is work time. But that does make those kind of 5-minute intermingling sessions at the beginning of all your meetings just that much better. And then thinking back to just the internship program, things that I've been learning from my own interns or mentees, or the interns that I help on ramp onto my own team, is that that fresh perspective that the interns bring definitely is needed, for one, and two, just really, really valued. I think at the agency, there's a time that we get to, I think that they still do this, where the interns get to have a chat for an hour with our CEO and just kind of have ask me anything session. And that was probably one of my favorite things. I asked her some really hard questions and she was ready to answer them and was and they were like tough questions about how is we ramping up or doing more to help with like diversity, equity, and inclusion. And she gave me an answer and I was like, I would like to know more. And, or like I gave her something, I asked her something like a follow-up question that could have gone like one way or the other. And she like wanted to learn from me. And I'm like, whoa, that's so weird. I'm 21, what the heck? And this woman who has been running this really like well-known agency is asking me for my opinion. I think speaks great lengths of what this internship and just this agency does and how it values its people. And yeah, I think that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
That's quite lovely. Thank you, Amalia. I think any leader in this agency, or excuse me, in this industry that doesn't operate that way is doing themselves a disservice, because this isn't an agency where, or excuse me, an industry where things stay stagnant. In 25 years of experience is better level of insight than somebody who's just entering the market. I learn all the time from people at all levels. So I would just encourage all of you, no matter where you end up for your internship in your career, to bring that and be bold and bring your point of view and your opinion as much as your hard work, because it'll really be valued. All right, I think we want to move along now to some open questions. And the first thing I'll ask is whoever is running the Zoom, I don't need to be spotlighted if I'm still spotlighted and have my giant mug dominating the screen, or maybe that's just my view. But I think we're going to ask folks to put questions into the chat, and they can be for the open question or for any one of us in particular, and we'll route those around.
Simon, it seems we got a few questions. Would you like to start from Fabry?
Yes. Okay. So Fabry is asking, what is the key to a successful application?
Okay, so I can take this one and we'll get, actually, you know what? I'm gonna hold on this one because we're gonna have a whole section at the end where we dig into some details about what to put on your application. So as a little incentive to stay until the end of the session, I'm gonna come back to this one.
Okay, so then we also have how do you describe We Communications as different from other agencies?
Yep, I'll take this one. Great question. And we do support Microsoft, and Edelman, another agency, has a big piece of Microsoft's business as well. I mean, the simple answer is that we're both working on different parts of the business. Edelman primarily does, drawing a total blank, Xbox in gaming. And that's because of a really deep expertise that they have in gaming. I think the question maybe is a little bit more about differentiation between agencies, and I would come back to what We Communicate. We're good at lots of things, but our core strength is boiling down complex ideas and really being able to tell powerful stories about how technology is making a positive impact on the world. And that really is what is unique and special, and that I think we're better than any agency out there. That serves us really well, because in today's world, it's not just, a Microsoft or an Intel that's got a tech story to tell. Every brand out there is using technology to deliver, experiences, products, ideas. And so that ability to tell those powerful stories is really what sets us apart.
And I'm going to add on to that too, with just some of my personal experience. I think something that happened at the beginning of the pandemic was, we're all on board, you're working, your life is normal. And then suddenly you wonder, like, even if I'm doing a great job, like, can my company keep me? Because, we had some clients that no longer had budget to work with us anymore, not from a personal standpoint, but just because, their business was hurting. So suddenly you're wondering, like, I love working here, but like, am I going to be able to keep my job? And I know that Edelman at the beginning of the pandemic made a really strong effort to not let go of any jobs as a result, but because they're publicly owned, they were under a lot of pressure to make a profit and report to their shareholders. So they had to let go of a lot of their employees. Again, not personally, and it wasn't like an evil decision. It just was their responsibility as a public company where they have to deliver and meet certain financial goals. And our company is privately owned, as Matt was sharing. So Melissa Wagner-Zorkin, who's our CEO, at the beginning of the pandemic came on and said, I don't care what profit hit we take. No one at my agency is losing their job as a direct impact of the pandemic. So it was, I think I cried on the meeting where we had that, because I felt so comforted that I was like, man, like I work a lot, and like I give so much, and I have friends at the agency and I love working here. And I just really felt the support coming back from the leadership that basically said, we always tell you that we're putting our people first. And here's a real good example of where we're going to choose to put our people over our profit. And I was really comforted by that. And I think it's just one example of a lot of times that the agency really prioritizes people over everything else, and the humanity and the ethics of what we're doing and the ethics of clients, and turning down certain businesses because it doesn't align with that. So it really, there's like a feeling that you have working somewhere where it aligns with your values and the leadership really cares about you. And so I think that's one of the differentiating facts that I feel about we.
I'm so glad you said that, Maddy. I'm going to share a quick story because I think it's really illustrative of the culture in our leadership. We participated in the pitch and RFP for Intel's business it was about a 9-month process, and it stretched through till March 2020. And so we found out we won the Intel account, which is a huge account and one we've really been interested in bringing on. We're really well suited to support them for a whole long time. And it was this big win. And typically that's one of the fun things about agencies is when you win new business, there's just this passion and this emotion that's really exciting. And we couldn't do a typical celebration. So we planned like a drive-by by Melissa's house, where we all had signs and honking, and people brought their kids and their families, and we did this little parade around Melissa's house. And I volunteered to take pictures. And so I was out of the car and I stood on her steps with her of her house, more than 6 feet apart. And she told me that she was planning to make that announcement. I asked her, when you made that announcement, did you know we won Intel? Because she had just made it 3 or 4 days earlier, assuming that, hey, with this big new client, new revenue coming on, that makes her feel safer about making that announcement. And she said, no, absolutely not. That wouldn't have been the right way to do it. I didn't find out we won until last night, just like you. And like Maddy said, it was just a really emotional moment, knowing that regardless of whether we had this big account coming on board or not, she was committed to figuring out how she and her leadership team and board would manage the company in a way through the pandemic where we didn't have to lay people off. So it really points back to one of the ways we differentiate is around our culture.
All right, and Phaedra also has her hand up, so I'm guessing she's got an answer for all. Yeah, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I have something to piggyback off of that too. Although this is definitely my first agency experience, when I first graduated, I had been in contact with multiple agencies in the Seattle area trying to find an internship. And I had options, and I would either ask or I would want to find out, did the agency have to lay people off due to the pandemic? And obviously that has happened. And I don't think that it's necessarily, like Maddy said, it's not because they're evil or hate their employees. But Edelman was not the only one that had to. And when I found out that we didn't, that was a really big part of why I really wanted to join the company, because I feel like we definitely puts their money where their mouth is. And they not only say they care about their employees, but they show it by their actions. And I think any company is going to say, oh yeah, we care about employees. Here's why we care about employees, and they'll talk to you about it. But if they're not going to show it through their actions, that doesn't really mean anything to me. So I really saw that very clearly when I was in the interview process, and I was shown it even more when I was an intern. So that's my 2 cents.
Perfect. And the next question is, do you offer internships in other fields as well as such talent acquisition or recruitment?
I can take this one. So we are experimenting. So we have this past internship cohort, we had 2 design interns and we had a marketing intern. And in the upcoming fall, we have a job description for someone in business development. But it's based on, does the agency have the open headcount right now? We don't open an internship headcount unless we have the budget at the time to hire them on afterwards. So we're very strategic about the interns that we have so that we could hopefully give them a job after the program. So we don't have one right now for talent acquisition and recruitment. But I would still say that if you're interested, still reach out and, you know, I don't know, maybe like your skills could be a fit another place, or maybe there's a coordinator role that you could be interested in, but it really never hurts to just, you know, reach out and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. This is maybe a good segue to one of the other questions in there. What sort of opportunities exist for interns at the end of the program?
Yeah, so I can take this one too. I think the goal is that we'll hire you onto your team. So it's kind of like you join and you're an intern, and by the end of the program, you're sort of already operating as the next level, which is an assistant account executive. So that's the level above intern. So we kind of phase you into that so that by the end of the program, you're sort of already working on the team. So I would say we try very hard, and the goal is to hire you on after the internship program.
Yeah, and we have had interns come through and do a more traditional PR stint and then move to other parts of the business. Nicole Stever came through our internship program and moved over to business development, which is the part of our business that works to get our name and our expertise out into the market and build relationships with big companies like Intel, and then help us show up really well when we're writing written responses to RFPs or doing pitches. We also do something really neat at the office, which is our operations team, which is the group that sort of manages the facility itself and sort of keeps everything running. It's a small team, but part of that team is like our front desk. We hire people for the front desk that are interested in learning about PR and try to transition those roles into PR account roles as well.
And is it okay if I chime in here super quickly? During the interview process for the internship program, one thing that really excited me was I was asking the woman, she's in HR, so this was the first round of interviews. So it was just someone from HR, someone who's not necessarily on a client-facing team. But something that really excited me was I was asking her what her journey has been at WE, and she said she started as, one of those, like on the team that Matt, you were just talking about, on operations or doing administrative work, and she didn't have any PR background. She mostly had administrative background, and so she got hired on as an admin and ended up taking all the opportunities she could to keep learning, and she just loved what the agency offered her, and she loved the agency so much that she said she felt called to go into talent acquisition because she wanted to try, like, what she loved was talking about the agency and showing others about the agency. So that, just in the interview process, hearing about someone who started on like the left end of business, who moved all the way over to like the right end and just was on a totally different project and team after like a year or two of being at the agency. And that was really cool to hear about. And there definitely are a lot of opportunities to like chase your interest and keep learning and everything.
Perfect. And the next question, would you encourage incoming communication graduate students to apply?
Probably you, Maddie.
Yeah, so I think that the internship program itself, I think, is, so first off, anyone is welcome to apply. We find that typically most of the interns are recent undergraduates, but we have had some folks that join, that apply as an intern and kind of like move through the ranks a little bit quicker because they do have a master's program. But the way that the agency is set up is you kind of begin as an intern, and then you would be an assistant account executive, and sort of like, you got to go through the steps. So I still would potentially encourage you to apply for the internship program if you feel like that is right for you. And you can also take a look at some of the other jobs that we have posted on the website if you feel like your experience level is a lot higher, or you have a different experience that would allow you to join at a higher level as well. And those jobs, I sent the link over the chat to the internship program, and I will also send the link to just our the link to our overall career listings.
All right, and Elin is wondering if we is open to hiring candidates who don't have an agency background, and if you can share more details about the onboarding process.
Yes, short answer is yes, we are. Certainly agency experience can be helpful, but we also like to hire people who have been internal at companies. And I often recommend to people that are going to stay in a career that they get both sides of the experience. If you've been internal at a company and come over to agency, you bring unique perspective on how organizations function, what it's like to work with an agency, as a client. There are also, other ways to develop the skills needed to work at We that might not be through either of those. So it's definitely not a requirement that you come from another agency. And as far as the onboarding process is concerned, around recruiting, it's been a while since I went through it myself. I would just say that of the 5 or 6 major jobs I've had in my career, the onboarding here was the smoothest, as far as I was given the time to learn about the company. It was a very structured to learn sort of the context around the company, around the account I was on. A lot of meeting people and having conversations. So you sort of build your network of people. But it really does vary a lot from team to team, and what the account is like, what your job is. It could probably look a little bit different.
Yeah, that's super helpful. And then specific to the internship program, definitely no agency background is required. Just an undergraduate degree. We have lots of folks who this is their very first internship or job after college. We also have folks who this is like their 4th internship after college, or like they had a bit of working experience too, but definitely working experience and other agency background is not required. And the onboarding for the internship program, this is part of what's so special, is we sort of try and create like a whole separate onboarding week for you, where you're just with the other interns, and we're teaching you about what is the agency, who's at the agency, what do we do, who is your cohort of other interns, what are the stuff you'll be working on, how do you use Microsoft Teams, how do you use your email, how do you schedule a meeting? So like we really try and bring you in and keep you kind of like getting to know each other and like building this foundation where you feel like you have some friends and a safe space and you're excited to be at the agency. And then we don't even unleash you to work on your accounts until the following week. So we just have to like bat people away that are like, I want Phaedra to start working on this. And we're like, nah, this week is just onboarding week. They are not working yet. They're just having fun. Well, fun. Okay. The interns are probably like, this is so much information. Like, but so we have the interns start on a Wednesday and we keep those 3 days as just kind of to Matt's point, like the slow ramp up where you're learning first before you're expected to just go. And then your first week that you're working with your accounts, you've got like some information to dig through and some learning portal trainings and some things to teach you and orient and kind of have a North Star of what you're doing. And then you kind of like ramp up to doing your account work. So the onboarding process, I would say, is like, it still is fast because the program is only 10 weeks. So it still moves quickly, but we definitely try and like surround you with a lot of support and hopefully some fun. But keep me honest, Phaedra and Brooklyn and Amalia, if you had like a totally different onboarding experience. That's what I tried to do, but
All right, well, if there are no more questions, we're circling back to the what is the key to a successful application?
Definitely. So a couple tips and tricks coming from our HR and talent acquisition team. And then just a little bit too of just some personal advice. I would say to keep in mind that every single interaction that you have, use it as a networking opportunity. Like if you're just chatting with someone and you're grabbing coffee with them, like show up on time, have questions prepared, try and like put your best foot forward to like look professional, and just kind of keep in mind like every single interaction that you have in the professional world is almost like a job interview question, because your network is really important. Like you might have a conversation with Brooklyn, she was so impressed with you, and then realizes like, oh, we have a job opportunity at my company. And I remember chatting with Michael and I wonder if he could be a great fit here. So just like keep that mindset. So there's that. And then also just these connections that you make in school, in your master's program, in undergrad, everywhere you go, add them on LinkedIn. Your connections are going to really help you grow in your career. And especially, and even once you're working in one job, I would still like keep your network alive and energetic, and maybe you can help connect other people. And it's just, I think emphasis on network is really important. And then specific to your actual like interviews and those conversations, I would say come to every single interaction with a positive attitude, right? So like if people are asking you like, why are you looking to work here? Try and stay positive, like you're interested in the company in XYZ, as opposed to saying like, man, I hate my manager, or like, I'm desperate, I've been looking everywhere and you're open. So like try and stay on the positive side of things, I think is something really important. And then also always have 2 to 3 questions prepared. That goes for networking conversations that you're having, that goes for interviews that you're having, but always kind of bring your positive attitude and some questions. And I would also say to know who you're talking to, like do some research on the person before, look at their LinkedIn, Google them or Bing them, and just kind of get a sense of their background first. And also the company's background, like you should know who the CEO is, check out and see if the company has been posting any blogs. What have they done interesting or that has been interesting recently, and look at their LinkedIn and their Twitter and just kind of get a sense of what you're walking into. And then the question everyone's been waiting for is like, what stands out on your applications? And I would say 4 things, or maybe 3 things. The first one is make sure that your resume is easy to read. So keep it organized and don't try and squeeze every single thing that you have ever done. Tailor it to the job that you're looking for and try and keep it organized and clean. And then use action words to show things that you've done and accomplished in each role. So that really helps us visualize what you're doing and understand the action that you can make. And then also, if you are referencing stuff during your interview, like, yeah, I worked on this really cool project, or I have a portfolio, just have those links available so that after the interview, if someone were to say like, that's great, Matt, can you actually send me a link to your portfolio, that you could send it really quickly, just being prepared. And then I think too, the last one is to really highlight what makes you awesome. Like what specific leadership skills do you have that other people might not have? Or what experience do you have that makes you stand out that other people might not?
Perfect, thank you. So if there's time left, we got one more question. Do we have time?
I would encourage you to send us an email with this question, because this is a great one, and would love to, I love where this question is going to, and I would want to make sure that we can have time to answer. So let me send you the email that everyone can use to stay in touch with us. And this way we can give you a really good answer. So yeah, thank you everyone so much for your time and interest in learning about the agency and the internship program. I sent a link to an email address that if you have any questions, you can email those questions over to us. If you want to stay in touch, please do so. There's also a link in the chat to our internship program. The applications are up now for the fall program. And if you feel like you're interested in browsing through the other jobs that we have available, there's also the link to kind of our all up career updates as well. So thank you so much also to our fantastic panelists, Brooklyn and Amalia and Phaedra, and to Matt for leading this panel. And Leah, I really appreciate your partnership. And it's been so great to work with you and host this event for everyone.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.